See these females planning on doing me wrong, so I'm grabbing a dome at the Trojan pack. Post the location after we. Oh, we're live. Oh, yo, what's going on, people? This is Danny Lee. This is Danny Lee TV. This is our third stream ever. Shout out to people in the free seats. This is the third stream ever, and this is the Youth Report. That's what's up. So if you're a Manchester United fan, you know that we have a lot of talented youth. We have a lot of talented players in our academy that we, all kind of talk about. We see getting highlight reels here and there, whether it's Bleacher Report, whether it's Man U TV, whatever it is. We see them all the time. They're already little stars. So with that being said, we got to talk about them. I like to rank them from 1 to 10. I like to get, or from 10 to 1, we'll go. I like to give you guys obviously their position and then their best case scenario. What, in my opinion, so I'll give you a player comparison for their best case scenario, and then a player comparison for what I think is their worst case scenario. And obviously, guys, when you hear me compare them to some players that are really good now, it's they have a very small chance of reaching this potential, but it is potential that is within them, in my opinion. And a few of these guys, I think 2 or 3 will come on and reach this potential. I think we've had a crop now of 15-year-olds that we've been buying now for the past 2 or 3 seasons that are now 17, 18, 19, and they're ready to make that step up. I think we've been some of the best buyers of youth in the world, and now it's just going to come down to their mental fortitude, their makeup, what they're born with, their family life, and then of course our training and what we're doing with the youth in terms of what our setup looks like and how good the coaching is. So with that being said, oh yeah, before we get into it, I'm the best scout on YouTube. I'm the best scout on YouTube. I promise you this. And I coach youth football, and one of my favorite things in life is to uh, find potential in people, right? Like in people, places, things, whatever. I do social media marketing for a living, so uh, I'm always looking for that's the way my brain works, right? So maybe when I don't see potential in myself, I might see it in other people. So my favorite thing in life is to find potential in others, right? And so I think that's kind of a gift that I have where I'm not great in other areas of life. I think seeing things in other people um, is where you're gonna want to follow me, especially for the youth reports. So with that being said, Number 10. It's gonna be a surprise already. 10. Where is you can't see my hands. Number 10. What's popping? Charlie McNeil. Now, oh my God, Charlie McNeil. He's scoring all the goals. How is he number 10? This guy, I'm turning it off. This guy doesn't know anything. The striker in the youth team always gets the praise, right? When the football is good, like it is in our youth system, the striker is gonna score, and the striker is gonna get the praise. Think back to not think back to, but like look at players like Joe Hugel, for example. And I'm a spoiler alert, he's not on this list because he's fallen off big time. I don't know. There's probably things going on in his personal life with the youth. They don't really get into that when players disappear for a while. Um, when players disappear for a while in the youth setup, it's usually because they've got issues, whether it's, and I don't like to speculate, but when players disappear, it's usually because whether it's drinking, a drug problem, whether it's family issues. But with the youth, we don't hear about those things. Those things are embargoed. So they can't be put into the press. They can't be. So someone like Joe Hugel, he's not going to be on this list because he's fallen off. He had a lot of accolades. He was scoring goals in a good system. Charlie McNeil is number 10 on this list because while I think he does have potential to break into the team, I think his ceiling is much lower than other players on this list. So he's obviously a striker. In his best case scenario for me, I see him as Danny Ings, which is no slight. That's not like if you become Danny Ings, you're a great footballer. You know what I'm saying? So, and that's the number 10 player on our list. So I think that's his best case scenario. And then his worst case scenario would be just a down and out Patrick Bamford, right? So when think about Patrick Bamford outside of the first season at Leeds when he was scoring and bagging goals. Think about the Patrick Bamford from Chelsea when they said, he was going to be good. And he literally, he couldn't kick a ball right. So think about a failed false nine or a failed technical striker with good finishing ability. That would be Patrick Bamford, and that would be Charlie McNeil's worst case scenario. So his strengths are his technical ability and obviously his finishing, and his first touch always sets him up for a good quality shot, which is something that you can't. Right, so like the thing that could break Charlie McNeil way beyond and past this list is um, if the finishing and the first touch in and around the box become world class. If that's the case, then you're looking at like a smaller Harry Kane type thing, which I don't think I don't think that's the case. But I think he's a very good finisher, and I think Danny Ings is his ceiling. So I think we're going to go there. Obviously, the technical ability, he's like a poor man's Martial in the sense that he'll drop in and play and link up the play. Um, Santi says Charlie McNeil looks more ready compared to others. He does look more ready. He's also, I think he's about 19 now. He's a little bit older, but he's has experience in the city system. He's got good coaching from them. So it's only his third year here with us. So yeah, I do expect him to be a little bit more ready. He does seem a little bit more mature in his growth pattern than other players do. Like if you just look at him physically, obviously he's still small because I think he's just a small man. I don't think he's got a lot of room to grow. And that's another thing that I look at as well is does he look like he's growing already? Like, does it look like it might sound weird, but that's a huge thing to look at when you're looking at scouting. Does it look like he's already done growing? Does it look like he's just started growing? Um, and so number nine is a player that actually it's this segues nice because it's a player that is going to be contingent on and not contingent on, but his growth pattern is going to have a lot to do with it. And number nine is Dan Gore. Now, Dan Gore, he's for me, he's a box to box midfielder. His output in the final third is not there, but he does. My thing is, he does like to link up the play and not or in and around the final third, but in the middle third to progress the play and up the pitch. He can carry the ball and he loves to put in a tackle. So he's going to work hard. The thing about Dan Gore is he's about 5'7", 5'6", 5'7", 5'8", maybe. So that's why his worst case scenario here, obviously for me, if you know me, his worst case scenario is going to be Ethan Galbraith. That's Dan Gore, right? Small player, not necessarily a DM, not necessarily a box to box. And even though he's small, his final third play isn't where you'd want it to be for an attacking midfielder. But with that being said, but there is a player who's thriving, or I don't know if you'd say thriving, with similar attributes, but he does do well. He does get in the England team, and that's Mason Mount. Mason Mount, I see as a box to box midfielder. Sometimes who's shoehorned in as a 10 and it doesn't work, or like as an inside forward and that doesn't work, or he's shoehorned in as a DM and that doesn't work. And that's where I think Dan Gore will have a lot of issues if he's shoehorned. Box to box wise, though, Mason Mount can put in a tackle. He can pick out a cutting edge pass from a little bit deeper. And that's something that Dan Gore will like to do. And obviously, he likes little intricate 1-2s in and around the middle third. So his best case scenario as a center mid, Dan Gore, you're looking at Mason Mount. So number 8. Oh, burp here. And G's on the channel. What's popping? We got G's. We got Demand him on the channel right now. What's going on, boys? So what do you guys think so far? Obviously, Charlie McNeil's kind of a shocker at number 8. What do you guys think about Dan Gore, Santi, and AN? Have you guys seen any of Dan Gore yet? But yeah, let me know. Number 8, Mark Jurado. So Mark Jurado, he's a player that he could easily rise on this list because I believe he's got this elite mentality, right? And that I don't know about anything off the pitch, right? So that's where you can be fooled. But the way that he plays on the pitch, his aggression, his composure, he can play on the left or right side, very similar to Dalot, and very similar to Azpilicueta. And those are his player comparisons. Out of form Dalot is his worst case scenario. And I think prime Azpilicueta, who's a very, very good player, I know, is his best case scenario because he's got the aggression, he's got the leadership traits, he's got the calm technical ability on the ball. When he wins it back, he's got his head up looking to make a diag into the middle into the middle of the pitch. But he's never giving his midfielders hospital balls. They're always calculated passes to move us up the pitch, and his carrying ability is beautiful for someone at that level. He can carry the ball up the pitch with a little bit of strength, and his delivery is awesome. His delivery is top notch. So yeah. Santi says nothing on Dan Gore. And part of the reason I enjoy your U team reports is because I don't follow it at all. So no, nothing. Say Sue says, is DH here? I don't know. I don't think DH is here. Tell him to get in here. Tell them, hey, y'all go back to SoFIFA, post a link. Tell him Danny's live with the youth report. Say, come clown him, come try to troll him. Yeah, so go back to SoFIFA, post a link. Tell them, yo, if y'all want a platform, that's what I'm saying. Like I said from the first couple of links, man, SoFIFA is the reason why I'm on here. If you don't know what SoFIFA is, Google it. It's a dope platform. And yeah, that's why I'm here. But yeah, that's Mark Jurado. Number 7 is a player that we all have started to know. He was the youth team player of the year last year. Alvaro Fernandez. This is a player that I think is guaranteed to get a shot in the first team, because I think he fits, similar to Jurado. I think he fits the things that Ten Hag is trying to do, from the fullback positions. He gets up the pitch. He's very well suited for that inverted fullback role because he's just absolutely brilliant technically. His downfall is he may be more suited to that left wing back role, as opposed to a fullback, because that turn. So for me, his worst case scenario is Manchester United Alex Telles, because that man, if you watch him, I don't know if anyone's watched the NFL, but one of the most important things in the NFL is, like as an NFL corner, is your ability to turn. You got to have hips, right? Like a dancer. Alex Telles and playing fullback when you're tracking a man is very similar to playing corner. When you're going forward like he wants to, when you lose the ball, if you don't have hips to get back, you're going to be chasing. You're going to be looking like Alex Telles did. And I'm seeing a little bit of that in Fernandez, a little bit. I think he's a little bit more athletic. His technical ability is way more superior than Telles in terms of he actually wants to do things on the ball, not just spam crosses, even though his crosses are brilliant. His peak for me is prime Marcos Alonso, which seems lame, but think about Marcos Alonso's had some brilliant moments. He's been in the Spain team. And if you have a career like Marcos Alonso, as a youth player, I think, as an academy player, I think that's something that's brilliant. I think he'd actually love to be compared to him, as a young Spaniard. So let's see. It's DH here. Santi, I feel our academy players are smaller in size than other teams. Other academy players look 20 kilograms heavier than ours. You know, that's something I do notice. I know that our team is generally, especially the U23s, like if you look at the team, we have, I mean, we'll get into it, but it's 17 and 18-year-olds almost exclusively. Whereas I know a lot of teams, and 17 and 18, I know as men, we grow into, look at Emil Smith Rowe's having growing pains right now. He's 22. So as men, we grow, we have some of our biggest growth spurts. I think muscle mass wise, especially like in our late teens, early 20s is when we start to fill out muscle wise. So yeah, let's see. I don't know. I remember you weren't too keen on Fernandez. I'm not 100% keen on Fernandez because of the turning radius, man. I think he's gonna get a chance in the team because I think he has so much ability, that you have to try it out and see if the ability trumps any of the physical deficiencies. But man, the turning radius is difficult, man. The way he turns, I don't know if you guys just picture Alex Telles when he loses the ball and then the way he turns the track back, it's a nightmare. Alvaro has a little bit of that. But yeah. So let's see. Saya says, hello, Danny. Gonna be honest, went to your page to watch you guys fight, saw your link and thought, why not? Shit, I appreciate it, brother. That's what's up. That's what we're here for. That's what I'm here for. If you don't know, Santi is the brains behind a lot of the channel, man. He comes up with the thumbnails, and he helped me learn how to stream. He's helping with the promotion. So shout outs to Santi Peñafiel over there. That's my Brody. So yeah. Number six. Oh, and weren't there some other fullbacks you talked about being more talented? Can't remember who it was. Yeah, Jurado, I think, is more talented than Alvaro. I ranked Alvaro one higher. The Player of the Year award gives him something for me. Seems that has to have something to do with their character and mental ability, especially as a youth award. In my opinion, I believe that that would have something to do with it. Um, and then I think uh, also I think his technical ability is so good, and some of his final third play is so good. He's going to get a chance before Jurado, unless he doesn't come back off loan. There is one fullback on this list though that is ranked higher than Alvaro, and we'll get into him in a little bit. Number six and number five, they're both disappointing for me. Um, Disappointing because, well, number six more so. We'll start with him first. It's Ahmad. Ahmad is number six for me. He's definitely lowered on this list. Why is he lowered on this list? Mainly, it's the pace. He doesn't have the pace. If he had a little bit more explosion with the pace on the wing, he would be a genius. He is a genius with the football. The man's a wizard. Um, I mean, you hear stories from Atalanta, you hear stories of Manchester United training that you can't get the ball off of him. It's just that when you play him in, fullbacks and center backs, and I hate to admit it, they're beating him to the ball. And the way that we want to play, running at players, getting in behind, he's gonna have to convert more into a cam, which is what I think is happening on his loan spells. I know Rangers was a tough one, and I know where he is now. I think it's what his Middlesbrough. They play with a cam. I think, and that's what I think he's trying to do is become a little bit more of an inside forward. Um, Maybe eight, workhorse eight, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm still so hopeful, and this is a ridiculous comparison, but this man was also a late bloomer, so bear with me. And Ahmad was one of the best prospects in the world, so it's not as far fetched as it sounds. But Ahmad's best case scenario is Bernardo Silva. If he uses the technical ability that he has in the middle of the pitch and his low center of gravity to not get knocked off the ball, and he uses his brains to find to link up in the middle of the pitch for quick 1-2s, and he keeps developing as a midfielder, which seems like is happening on his loan spells. I think there's a chance by 22, 23, 24 we see a very, 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 very good player, but that's as an eight in my opinion. I think as a winger in the Premier League, he's not going to do it. The pace just isn't there. Um, that's why for me, his worst case scenario is Angel Gomez. And some of you guys, I will admit it. Some of you guys did say he's Angel Gomez. He's Angel Gomez, and that could be the case if he does convert to a midfielder as a cam. I think it's difficult to be that small and be the lone man linking up the play in the middle of the pitch as a lone 10. As an eight, I think it's much easier because you have a triangle with your right-sided winger, your left-sided winger, and the striker. Then you have the defenders behind you. And then you have the other eight next to you. And then obviously you have the CDM behind you. There's all kinds of options. As a lone 10, you're tasked with running around the pitch, getting bumped around by two sixes, possibly center backs, an eight. It's a lot of physical toll. So, and that's why I knew Angel Gomez would fail as a 10 in the Premier League. He wouldn't get a chance even. Ahmad, if he's a 10, he won't make it. I think he has to somehow work his way as an eight and figure it out. He says Santi making the channel look clean again. Yeah, man. And Santi's making the channel look clean. I'm telling you, man, Santi's a guy. If you need Santi for some work, he charges. He charges. You know, we're a partnership, but you know, my man Santi charges. So, you know, hit him up. He's got good prices. He does his thing in between his work. You know, I do social media marketing. Santi does his thing. I'm not going to reveal his job unless he wants to. But yeah, and I think you can make up from muscle mass with aggression. So there's that. Yeah, that's what I think Ahmad has to learn, and I think it's controlled aggression. If you look at Bernardo Silva, he's got controlled aggression. It's low center of gravity, and his eyes are always on the ball. Man, I'm not losing the damn ball. I'm getting my body between you and the ball. Hey, 6 viewers in the house. What the fuck is up, y'all? I appreciate that. 6 viewers. That's got me live. I mean 6 live viewers. That's pretty dope. That's what's up. I appreciate the Soul FIFA community, man. Y'all are lit. And I think oh yeah, I said that, and at least to some extent, and might be a route for Sancho too. Maybe That's something that I was actually gonna get into. I said this on So FIFA, and y'all like Sancho is an 8. Oh my goodness. Jaden Sancho, I believe, may fancy converting as an 8, but converting into an 8. We'll see though. I don't think he's aggressive enough. I don't know if he has a defensive ability, but we'll see. Number 5 is another one that's a little disappointing for me. But you guys, I want to. I can't stress enough that the people ahead of them have taken such big jumps as well that I think that they're on a different level, and are pleasantly surprising more so than Ahmad. And number 5 is Hannibal have dropped off. Right, so Hannibal's number 5. His best case scenario is Bruno Fernandez. The similarities are uncanny, right? And if your best case scenario is going to be Bruno Fernandez, that means your floor is extremely low, because when Bruno's not doing well, Bruno's really poor. So if you can imagine an academy player, if his traits are Bruno-ish, then his poor is going to be something like Ravel Morrison, which is his worst case scenario. Um, Hannibal's a central midfielder and a cam. He's aggressive. When his head is focused on playing football and not hitting someone, he's good at analyzing the game from a one-touch perspective, and also from a spatial awareness perspective. So he does take up good spaces in the final third, and then he does like to come deep to receive the ball. I think his best position is as an 8 in a 4-3-3. I think if you shoehorn him as a 10, he's the type of player that he'll believe that it is all revolved around him, just because the system literally shows a format that has him in the center of it all. That's a weird thing to say, but for everything I've heard about him is he's got a very large ego. And he's kind of tough to rein in. And I think as a lone 10, he might look at it and be like, I've got to do everything, so I'm going to try to do everything. I think as an 8, he can focus on being an aggressive midfielder, that keeps the play ticking, that arrives late in the box. That's very good, technically, obviously, with his outside shooting. And I think he's just that. He's just a talented box to box player. Santi says that's why I like Anthony over Sancho. Yeah, I agree. Anthony's just got that little burst of pace that you like, and Anthony hasn't shown it yet in terms of taking on a man. I think that's going to come with a little bit of confidence. You've already seen he's got 2 goals and 2. But yes, Anthony over Sancho. I think we're going to have to move away. We're gonna have to assess Sancho a little bit. Maybe change the spaces that he takes up a little bit, if he's going to keep playing out on the left. But yeah, that's Hannibal at number 5. Number 4 is a player that we've been talking about for a while. He was injury prone. He seems to have gotten over the injury bug the last 2 years, and that's Ethan Laird. Ethan Laird is really talented, man. I think, as a fullback, he's got everything. He can carry the ball. He's extremely strong. He's got a lot of pace. His final ball is brilliant. So his crossing, he can chip in with a goal or two. His passing diagonally into the midfield is great. His passing down the line into the channels and the forwards is great. He doesn't really have a weakness to me outside of fitness, and that's a huge weakness, right? If it comes to pan out in a negative way. But I think Ethan is going to make it at Manchester United. I really do. I think there's even a chance, and this is a huge shout. AWB is so not fancied, and we so do not have any other options in terms of ready players. Because Gerardo, I think he needs a little bit more time. I think Ten Hag's gonna say, "Fuck it, if you're not gonna get me Dumfries in January, bring me back Ethan Laird. I can do something with Ethan Laird." And I think he can, and I think we're gonna see that he can. I think his best case scenario, um, he's got Kyle Walker vibes with a little less pace, and more technical ability, obviously. But a player that I liked more, I don't know if you guys remember him, was Bakary Sagna, a really good fullback for Arsenal. That I think he got a little bit of flack because he wasn't incredible at going forward and wasn't incredible defensively, but he was pretty solid at both, and that's what I think Ethan Laird can be. And I think that's a really good fullback in my opinion. And I think his worst case scenario is Nathaniel Klein. I think physically Nathaniel Klein fits him to a T. Prime Nathaniel Klein. It sounds ridiculous. I think Ethan Laird has more technical ability, and more determination, but the injury proneness is a very big comparison there. So if he stays injury prone, look for a Nathaniel Klein fall for Ethan Laird. But if not, look for a mix between a Kyle Walker, Bakary Sagna type player. He's a difficult player to pin because he is so well rounded. and so compact. Number three. This is a big shocker, guys. This is a player, and I'm disappearing because I got to stretch for a second. If you follow me, these are the reasons you're gonna follow me right here because of these predictions right here for 3, 2, and 1. Right. I want to stop real quick. Who do you think? Santi, An, Saya, who's in the chat right now? Let's see. Yeah, tell me who you think number 3 is. I'm gonna give you 10 seconds. Somebody throw out a guess. Who do we think number 3 on this list is? Who have I not mentioned? There's still 3. You're like, there's still 3 left. I'm only thinking of 2. Now there's 3. The third one, Omari Forson. Remember this name, Omari Forson. This is a player. No. Hugo's not on this list, buddy. I think you jumped in like a fraction late. Hugo's been out. I think Hugo's got personal issues, whether it's drink, family, whatever it is. Hugo hasn't been in the mix for a couple years now. But number 3 is Omari Forson. Remember this name. 2 years ago when this boy was 15, he made his under 18 debut as an attacking midfielder. And I came onto the chat in SoFIFA and I said, remember the name. I don't know if you can do a search in people's comments and see, like, go back and look, but I guarantee you have Omari Forson. I'm the first person that you've ever seen on any chat, on any YouTube, on anywhere besides the compilation. Now, I don't even know if compilation videos had Omari Forson, if people were talking about him before I was. And I'm going to toot my own horn there. Omari Forson's a brilliant player because he's got that pace and he loves to take a player on. He's a left-footed right winger. And this player looks he's a spitting image of Bukayo Saka. He's a spitting image of Bukayo Saka. He's a spitting image. Go watch this boy play. So he started out as a cam, which, what does that tell you? Technical ability, right? Technical ability. He moved out onto the right wing. What does that tell you? As an academy player, that usually tells you pace and flair. When you watch him, he's 17, I think still. I don't think he's 18 yet. Starting games for the U23s right now, opposite side of Garnacho. Just taking players on, cutting in. This kid, his left foot, oh my goodness, he's got an absolute rocket. He's gonna score goals. He's gonna play the balls that Anthony's gonna play, those diags, because he's a cam at heart. He's gonna pick out those passes, but he's gonna run at you. He's gonna run at you. He's gonna give you step overs, and then he's gonna use that left foot to poke it past you, and then cut back and play a ball across or beat you and score a goal. The kid looks like Bukayo Saka. I can't even stress that enough. And it's actually pretty dangerous how much he looks like him. They're like spitting images. And so his worst case scenario for me would be Alex Iwobi, and that's if we don't know what he is, right? So if we continue to try to move him between cam and wing, and maybe because he's playing in the midfield, he puts on a little bit more bulk like Iwobi did, and then he loses some pace and flair like Martial did, and then you have an Iwobi, right? I think, though, this kid, I'm not going to say he's going to the very top. He's definitely getting a chance with United. And he's definitely a player that we need to look out for and keep watching because he's absolutely brilliant. He can play with his right foot as well. That's the thing. He's not Ziyech where he's got no pace. He's looking to whip a ball, and the man is pace. He's African. Like he's African. He's an African boy. He's got that pace. He's going to beat you, but his technical ability is brilliant. And yeah, I just realized on this list, I forgot someone. It's absolutely criminal. It's the best scout on YouTube has forgotten someone, and he's supposed to go right here on this list. So number 1 is gonna be 1A. So we're gonna go. Wait, what in the world? So we're gonna have 11, 1A and 1B, right? And then we're gonna have a 2 and a 3. So 3 is Omari Forson, right? Who is 2? If Omari Forson is 3 and we have a 1A and a 1B, who's 2? Yeah, Palestri ain't Academy. No, Mengi's not on this list. Mengi's had chances. I think he's usually youth players Um, Usually youth players, they show something quickly. Like they don't show that they're world class, but they show ability, right? Very quickly. So Mengi ain't on this list. But yeah, that's hilarious. If you're tuning in right now, I forgot a player and added a player in at the end. I added Dan Gore in quickly at the end, thinking that I didn't have enough players. And I was like, I thought I had Dan Gore in there. I have a 1A and a 1B. So who's number two? No, Isaac Hansen is not on this list. Surprise, surprise. If we have a 1A, a 1B, and a 2, Garnacho's not number 1. Garnacho is number 2. Um, and and Garnacho is number 2 on this list behind two other players. Like I said, we have a 1A and a 1B. Alejandro Garnacho's a number 2. Um, and there's a lot that you can say about this player because his ceiling is so high. We've seen so much of him on compilations. We've seen so much of him just in our notifications. We've seen so much of him in the youth game, in the youth games, in the final, in the FA Cup final. This player has a chance to go to the very top, of course, like we've seen, but at the same time, he does have a bit Dan James in him, and that's his worst case scenario. So if he's number 2 on this list, and you've got players like Omari Forson, who I'm saying look like Bukayo Saka, you can imagine that his best case scenario, we're reaching for the stars with Garnacho because there's got to be a very high middle ground between Dan James and this player that I'm going to say next in order to even that out. What makes him such a high prospect? And what I see in Alejandro Garnacho's best case scenario, Iqbal hasn't been mentioned yet. What I see in Alejandro Garnacho's best case scenario, brace yourself because I did say his worst case scenario is Dan James. It's Mo Salah on the left hand side. Think about it. Think about it. Think about it. I know I just said it. I said it. I had to say it quickly. Best case scenario, Mo Salah on the left hand side. Um, Someone tuned out right away as soon as I said that. Think about it. Think about it. Watch him play in the academy. Okay, first of all, Mo Salah was such a late bloomer. He didn't really arrive until 26, 20, 25, 26. Alejandro Garnacho is 18. The pace is there. Similar frantic dribbling in terms of it doesn't look brilliant when they're trying to dribble and beat men in tight spaces, but they do have these frantic little tight touches that are they're more controlled than they seem. That's what I realized about Garnacho. His touches are way more controlled than they seem, because they often lead to hard fouls or him actually getting in behind. He does take he does tend to use body feints more than his touches. And then he'll use like one or two body feints while he lets the ball roll at the defender, and then he'll take a tight touch or a hard touch into space that you kind of think, oh, that was a tight touch, Garnacho, and then but he barely evades the defender, and it seems like he's more technically gifted than we realize, and that's something that people had to see in a young Messi. It was, well, he's not doing step overs and he's not doing, flicks and tricks. So is Messi really going to be this world class player? Yes, because the pace is electric and those touches are way tighter than you think when you see him on a tight scale. And they're all planned. Every touch is planned. Now, Garnacho's feet are nowhere near Messi. He's never going to be as good as Messi. He's not going to be as good as Mo Salah. But he does have that similar frantic touch and pace, and obviously the finishing ability at a young age is very similar. So yeah, I think his finishing ability is very similar to a young Salah. The way that he wants to play in and around the final third, get in behind, and just bag goals, and it's that relentless, I'm gonna keep going even when everyone's a lot tuning. I got people tuning out now because of that comparison. Oh man, I think I'm onto something though, and it's you got to think about it. The middle ground, Dan James to Mohamed Salah. So there's a spectrum there. I'm not saying he's going to be Mo Salah, and I'm not saying he's going to be Dan James. I think he's going to be closer to Mo Salah than he is Dan James. Don't get me wrong, but he's not going to be anywhere near Mohamed Salah ever is and ever will be, right? So this moves on to 1B. So we have 1A and 1B because these players for me are both sensational. You guys haven't even mentioned this player yet. It's absolutely ridiculous. I've been raving about this player in the chat now for 2 years. No, no, no. 1A I have been. I've been raving about for 2 years saying this guy's gonna make it no matter what. We gotta protect him at all costs. So I'm surprised. But number 2, this player is a player that showed something under Ten Hag that shot up these rankings for me. He was number 8 on my last ranking. Having getting to see him with first team players, Zidane Iqbal is number 2 on my list at 1B, right? So if you didn't tune in, I forgot to copy and paste Garnacho back in. And then I was looking at the list and I was like, wait, didn't I have Dan Gore in? And Dan Gore's ceiling for me is higher than Charlie McNeil. So I then put him in above Charlie McNeil and forgot Garnacho. So Garnacho's 2 and Iqbal's 1B. Um, Zidane Iqbal he's a little genius in the middle of the pitch. And once we got away from trying to make him a winger or a cam, as in a player that uses his flicks and tricks and his skills to score goals and show compilation videos to grow the youth academy. Once we got away from trying to make Zidane Iqbal a winger or an attacking stage player, you don't realize the potential that this player has now as a box to box midfielder. His best case scenario is a poor man's Luka Modric, Zidane Iqbal. I don't care what you tell me. This player has the potential to come into Manchester United and be a player for us for 15 years. Zidane Iqbal is that good. Now, he also has the player to come in and be Danny Ceballos, as any academy player does. And that's a very, very, very good worst case scenario. That's probably, I'm looking at this list, second to the next player on this list. That's the best worst case scenario on this list is Danny Ceballos. Um, Zidane Iqbal, his close control, he's the type of player that you can tell he's just so much better than everyone technically that they put him in the final third because he just dribbles around academy players and scores goals. In the midfield, he's a maestro. He understands the game at an elite level, and that's something I did not know. I thought he was just a flicks and tricks academy player for the compilation. When I saw him with Ten Hag, and Ten Hag's the real genius, not me, because he showed me Iqbal, and then I got to see him for what he was, right? So shouts out to Eric Ten Hag for seeing Iqbal. The passes, the cutting edge passes that this man makes from midfield, the ability to fake a pass, then do a little De Jong spin, and then carry the ball up the pitch, not have to pass like James Ward-Prowse because he can't dribble. Carry the ball up the pitch. I don't know if you remember the last preseason match where he bodied the man with a De Jong spin, pushed him off the ball like he was a baby boy. This was a grown man, probably 32, 33 years old, and then puts in a beautiful cross into the box after 2 or 3 tight controlled dribbles. That's when I said those are the type of things that you have to see from academy players to say they're going to make it. They're going to be like, they could be top class of 92 type players, right? Because every academy player isn't going to show that they're world class consistently, but they're going to show something quickly, right? And Iqbal showed something quickly, and he showed a lot quickly against grown men. Don't care that it was preseason. I don't know if you remember someone like Emil Smith Rowe 3 or 4 years ago under Emery. Emery saw something under him. And Emery saw something under him, and Emil Smith Rowe was playing in the preseason games. And I was like, you know what? This Arsenal boy, this Emil Smith Rowe, he's going to be something one day because he was showing something every match in the preseason in small sample sizes. He went on loan. I forgot about him. And little do you know, he comes back and he's a baller. I know he's struggling now. I don't know if I think Iqbal's a better prospect than Emil Smith Rowe was even. I think he's that good. He's, like I said, Luka Modric technically at that age, he's Luka Modric. Passing ability in between the lines, dribbling, knowing when to dribble, knowing when to drop back, pick the ball up off the back four. His burst of pace, his agility, that he's not fast. Like he's not going to get in behind. His first 7-8 yards, like breaking between the lines, brilliant. I can't say enough about Zidane Iqbal, man. I think he's going to be brilliant. I think once this team stabilizes and shows where it's going to be league-wise, whether it's steadily in top 4, steadily in top 6, I think you'll see Iqbal this year be ingratiated into this team, implemented into this team. And that leads us on to 1A. How did you guys not get it, man? This boy, I don't know if you've seen this boy lately. Oh my goodness. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Wait, I can't be saying stuff like that. We're talking about youth players. I can't be making noises like that. Although 16 is the legal age in y'all's country, which is weird. Is weird. It's 18 where I live, which is probably much better. It should be 21. But um it's Kabi Manu, man. It's Kabi Manu. Where were you guys? Where were you when all the dogs needed help? Hey, lawyers in that commissary ain't gonna pay it. Lawyers in that commissary ain't gonna pay itself. Ain't gonna, what does he say? Lawyers in that commissary ain't gonna be no help. I don't know what he said. Where your ass was at when we recorded in the bathroom. Where your ass was at. A take of 10 is like a classroom. Yeah, Kobe Manu, man. I'm a huge Drake fan. I'll probably sing a lot of Drake on here. I'm the West Coast, Los Angeles nigga, Mark Goldbridge. I'm be singing a lot of Drake, but it's Cubby. It's Cubby Manu. I think that's how you pronounce it. Actually, I thought it was Kobe. I thought it was Cubby. It seems like it's Cubby Manu. Um, this kid's gonna make it. I'm staking my youth report early, my youth analysis. I'm staking my reputation on the line with Cubby Manu. Santi and An, y'all have been debating. Yeah, Savage is good. I think he gets a lot of big ups because of his dad. I think he's stable there in the midfield. But I don't think he's athletic enough to play in the Premier League. Although they said the same thing about Paulinho, Joao Paulinho. So we'll see. Maybe Savage climbs up this list. But Cubby Manu, man, he's number 1A. We must protect Cubby Manu at all costs. Somebody clip this. Santi's going to clip this. I know he's got a folder of clips, and we're going to start releasing those as shorts. Cubby Manu, we must protect him at all costs. He is the one. Cubby Manu is the one. Okay, so this boy has got everything that Paul Pogba didn't have, with a little less of what Paul Pogba, the good things that Paul Pogba have that actually were his downfall, right? If you've seen Cubby Manu lately, he looks a little different because he's growing. You look at him in the face, you're like, what is that Cubby? He doesn't look like a little boy anymore. He's starting to grow. And that's something that I was trying to tell people in FIFA that were getting on me, like, oh, like, yeah, he's doing it now. No, he hadn't even started growing yet as a 16-year-old starting in U23 matches. The one that looked the most physically ready, bodying people off the ball, the one that was doing a step over in the middle of the pitch to then find a man but not lose the ball and take too heavy of a touch, the one whose defensive accolades and acumen are there, the one that wants to put in a tackle, the one with the leadership ability, the one that likes to pick the ball up off the back four and then drive forward, the one that if you play him in a box-to-box role, he's going to have goals and assists because similar to Zidane Iqbal, he's that much better, more physically gifted, and technically better than the level that he's at right now. But the physical ability is what's going to translate to making him a guaranteed staple in the United lineup, whether that's as a substitute for many years as a Darren Fletcher, I don't care, he won titles, or as someone like I don't know, Claude effing Makaleli, right? Like he can be whatever he wants to be. Now his range is so small in terms of player comparison because I think he's a guaranteed to be a good player, right? So he doesn't have the highest player comparison, right? So Zidane Iqbal has the highest um, comparison in terms of Luka Modric, but Kobe Manu has the tightest range, and his ceiling for me is what we all see Chouamini's ceiling being, right? Someone that can pick the ball off the back four as a holding midfielder. Someone when you're playing him in a box-to-box role, he's going to carry the ball. He's just going to push man off the ball. He's going to do a step over and nutmeg a man and beat a man and then carry the ball if he needs to. But the defensive ability is what makes him a better prospect than Paul Pogba. Let me have this clip too. Kobe Manu is a better prospect than Paul Pogba because of the defensive acumen. Paul Pogba is what is the problem with what our youth academy has been. A lot of flicks and tricks, a lot of a lot of technical ability, but no work rate, no drive, and no defensive thought process because it wasn't being taught. They were just balling. Ravo Morrison, Jesse Lingard, Paul Pogba, they were just passing the ball around for fun, knocking it in the back of the net. Paul Pogba was just pushing little kids off the ball. The thing about Cubby Manu is he's about 5'9", 5'10". So he still glides around the pitch with low center of gravity that we need at Manchester United. We need to get away from these tall, lanky midfielders that take forever on the ball, low center of gravity midfielders that knock the ball around, that pass the ball quickly and keep going on with the 1-2s. And Kobe Manu at 5'10", and I think maybe he has an inch or two in him left to grow, has that, but he's physically superior to everyone he plays against, technically superior to everyone he plays against, and tactically superior to everyone he plays against. He's never out of position. If we need goals and assists, he's in that position. If we need to sit back and get control of the game, he's going to go pick the ball up off the back four, and then he's going to tell his other midfielders to push on, which is something that we've desperately been missing. So his floor for me is Thomas Partey at Arsenal. You've seen how he's been up and down, but he's been a very good player. For me, Thomas Partey hasn't been all that for Arsenal, but he's a quality player. And if Kobe Manu becomes Thomas Partey, he's going to play for Manchester United for a long time. And that's what I think, you know, that's what I think we're looking at there. Uh, we were yes, Sus, I know what you're talking about. And we were here, figured it out, even if it was late. And Kobe is a great talent, still young though, so difficult to know for sure whether he'll make it. Injuries can be scary for youth players. Think of Victor Vasquez, was once considered a greater talent than Messi. Then injuries happen. No. And to wrap this up, and I couldn't agree more, brother. If Kobe Manu breaks his leg, he may never be able to play football. Like, you don't know what could happen to these players, right? Like, I think Luke Shaw would be consistently one of the best players in the world right now if he didn't have the mental block of having his leg snapped in half on the pitch, which no one talks about. If these players stay healthy, these are my predictions, right? And I think we leave injury out of it unless they're known to be an injury-prone player like Ethan Laird. It's fair, right? But with that being said, guys, that's my first live youth report. And this is Danny Lee, the best scout on YouTube. If you need any help, you have any questions about scouting, if you're over 18, message me at Danny Pendleton on Instagram. You got any questions about players that you like? You got any questions about social media marketing in uni or in your job? Like I said, you're over 18. Hit me on at Danny Pendleton on Instagram. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, do whatever you got to do. Peace.